Welcome to WLNM, the web novel and manga review, hosted by Zeke Shanguris.
Welcome to WLNM, the web light novel and manga review, the podcast dedicated to bringing our listeners the artists and writers that are part of this renaissance of creativity, giving us stories to entertain and inspire us. The guest today is Lynn Sheridan, or at the Otaku Author, a writer who describes himself as an author who analyzes anime to extract all the delightful wacky goodness and turn it into original fiction. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Zeke. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Always interested to talk to writers, and your description of you is you analyze anime and take all the good stuff and make original fiction. So can you explain that, like elaborate on that idea for me?
Sure. So like by my day job, I'm an analyst. So I'm always looking at statistics and numbers, and I guess I've always been interested in stories since I was a kid, when we'd pick up a video from the video store, and shows how old I am now. But my parents would be like, okay, we've got this for 2 days. If you want to watch it again, now's the time to do it. And I would probably watch it 3 or 4 times back to back, just to get the most out of it. And so I think even from that sort of age, I was always like trying to pick apart what's working, what I'm enjoying, what I'm not enjoying. I find oftentimes I'll get ideas watching stuff that doesn't inspire me, because I'll be watching it and see it and go, oh, well, what if they've done it a different way? And oftentimes that'll lead me on a bit of a spark of discovery. And
so you let the possible scenarios kind of take you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always start everything with a what if, and constantly pile more what ifs on top of that.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing, and don't worry. When we didn't have a VCR until 1983, so yeah, I remember pre-VCR. I remember my uncle had a Betamax, so yeah, which is a better format.
Yeah,
the Betamax is better, but VHS won the VCR wars for one particular reason. It was cheaper than Beta.
Yeah.
And a certain industry out in the valley in California decided to film all their movies on it. And
yeah, that industry is often at the forefront of technology, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. Hey, who adopted VR first?
Yeah.
So now tell me about, okay, you watch the shows and you get these ideas. Now, are you trying to make like just that what if scenario, or are you trying to flesh it out into a full-fledged plot?
When I'm watching it, I'm generally just pulling out like little ideas, little things that sort of really talk to me about that episode. Like at the moment, I do a lot of episode reviews on my website, the Otaku Author, and it's a mix of seasonal shows and some of the I say older, but the older ones that I really enjoyed the first time I watched it. So now I'm going back and really sort of looking at like the specifics of, this character did something really interesting at this point, and so I'm building up almost like a library of little sort of nuggets that I can call on when I need to.
Okay. Yeah, you're I mean, I know I'm one of those people who rewatches things a lot, and I like going back through, and you pick up on details that you didn't notice before, especially if you're a sub watcher. If you watch subtitles, you have to watch it at least a couple times, because your attention is on the subs, and you do miss a lot of details that are in the story sometimes, or at least in the art of the story. Are you? I mean, is let's see, is the goal of the website to be more of review, or are you going to push it towards the side of original fiction, or is it just gonna? You think you're going to keep it as a good blend of both?
I think a good blend of both is the sort of the feeling I'm getting. This is probably my fifth or sixth website. Like I've gone through various like iterations, and now I feel like this is the brand I want, and it focuses on the stuff I'm interested in with anime and writing. So it gets the sort of the nice balance of the two. Um, like originally, when I started writing, it was everyone's like, you need a platform, you need something that people can find you. And I didn't want to be one of those new authors that was writing about writing all the time. Like, listen to me, I know everything. I've got like one book out. Whereas, I felt that, I knew about anime and I'd been watching it since I was like 12. And so it just felt like, just to keep the blog ticking over, I'd post a review on something I'd seen. And it just kind of evolved from that.
So you talk about writing. When have you always been a natural storyteller? Is this something that you've always done? I mean, some people have found writing is something that they enjoy doing later in life, and then there are some of us who've been telling stories and uh, writing them out since we could make letters. Are which category you think you're in?
Probably the later development. Like I've always been thinking stories. I've always been like doing things in my head, and I draw quite a bit as well. So I've always like been drawn to manga and wanted to do something similar to that. Um, Time is always an issue with that. Um, Whereas writing, I find it's quicker and easier to get the story down and do that. It was I'm trying to think when it was. The first time I suppose I really got into it, I did NaNoWriMo with a group of friends, and we did this story where we bounced it between us. So everyone
Okay.
would write the day's target and then pass it on. And it was crazy. It was a lot of fun, and it was like watching a serial unfold, because it'd come back to you 4 days later, and the story would have taken a massive swerve. Somebody would have died, and you'd have to try and sort of bring it back to where you were thinking. And so it was very sort of improv and really interesting. And from that, I think that really gave me the sort of belief that I could actually write rather than just dream of writing.
Well, I mean, hey, as I say, I use this in a lot of ways for students. Um, is that you can? I don't believe it's the same philosophy I have with bucket lists. I don't believe in a bucket list. I believe in things that I'm going to do. Because if I say it's on the bucket list, that's like, oh, I will get to that one day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you make it a priority in your life, you tend to find a way to get it. And for a lot of us, we have found ways to make writing a priority because it's something that we enjoy. And I think that's a key element is that writing is something that's part of you. If you're always telling stories, you want to get it down and you want to create this world. And are you more of a prompt guy, or do you like coming up with original worlds?
Um, Very much original worlds. Like I'm looking at anime at the moment, and I have a bunch of posts on my site where I um, put out a spin-off idea on a series.
Okay.
So it's just like a bit of fun where I take a character that I enjoyed from a series and give them a spin-off idea. But on the whole, when I'm writing my stuff, it's generally like completely made up. And like it's more the mechanics that I'm pulling from anime, like the the tropes and um, how characters react and that sort of thing. Um,
Oh, hey, I love uh, I love making this comparison, and I've made it multiple times on this podcast because I've asked authors. A lot of authors, they get started by writing fan fiction, and they're usually reluctant to say so. Like, well, remember when you were in school and you were given a prompt from your teacher? That's exactly what a fanfic piece is. And you are just taking the framework of a story and you're expanding upon it. And, you know, most stories in this world, as Joseph Campbell dictated, are in A Hero of a Thousand Faces. We are all pulling from the same elements. And in some cases, those elements are more laid out for us than others. But it's uh, telling a good story. Stories always have some of the same elements. I mean, especially if it's an adventure. You've got your hero. You've got what their discovery of their calling, and they go on the adventure, and then they deal with this moment of doubt, and it all comes back. It all almost falls full circle. And that's storytelling. And whether you get that prompting from somewhere else or it's straight out of your brain, it's still every story to me has legitimacy. I don't care where the inspiration comes from.
yeah, for sure. And like I think we're ultimately a sum of our experiences.
Yes.
So there's it's like when people try to say that they're being um, like subjective in a review, and I think that's kind of really hard to do, like because ultimately you're going to enjoy something based on your previous
Right.
experiences. Um, so everyone's objective, and if like the same thing with the prompt, you could give 20 people the same prompt and they'd all come up with something different.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah. We constantly say, especially when it comes to anime and manga, and when it comes to stories, there to me there's no such thing as a bad one. There's just ones that may not appeal to me. There are plenty of anime that don't appeal to me, but I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I mean, yeah, production values can vary, and there are a lot of things that can go into that. But in every story to me has a lot of value in it, and I'm not ever going to knock someone for putting that story out there.
yeah,
That's really important to me as someone who writes and someone who promotes writing and creativity. Is there's who's to say who's to say whose story has value and whose story doesn't? I don't, and that's
yeah,
something I promote my writers, the writers that work under me. I tell them that, yeah, you can find a flaw here and there, but don't start off with, yeah, this sucked. Start off with, and if you really think that strongly about it, you better back it up and tell me why.
yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, you just go look at the reviews for any Stephen King book.
Yes.
There will be 1-star reviews. Like it's like you're never going to please everybody, but there's always going to be like someone that will like it. And like a number of times I watch an anime and it didn't gel with me, and I'll look on like MAL and there's like hosts of people raving about it, and I'm like, wow, okay.
A wonderful example of that is I was interviewing the production crew of Trigger, who worked on the director who worked on Darling and the Franks,
Hmm.
and he had no idea that the show was popular because in Japan it fell flat, but it was gangbusters in the United States. And he said he didn't know until he came to the United States that the show was a success at all
Yeah,
because the domestic audience wasn't a fan of it. But so it's interesting to see different folks, and what they think is, interesting. I mean, have you ever seen the maps that Crunchyroll puts out now and then, where it shows what region of what place likes what show?
I
It's
haven't, no.
they put out maps occasionally, and it'll show what they'll like. It'll be a map of North America, and it'll show down to each state in the United States the most popular anime streamed in each state. And it's absolutely fascinating because there's always like one outlier, where like, you'll have like a South Dakota who likes the one show that nobody else likes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember I started writing a series back at the beginning of 2017. And it was probably like my first go at a real major series. And, it had everything I wanted in it. It was like vampires, zombies, like just complete genre mashup. And I was like, I'm just going to write it, see what happens. And, I was at that stage, I was very much on the sort of independent author mindset of, rapid releasing and getting the stuff out there. And I think I put 8 out before I ended up going on paternity leave and taking some time off. And I feel like it was really hard to zero in on who my readers were, because it was such a sort of mashup of genres and styles. And during my time off, I really focused on my website and really sort of went back to sort of the learning phase and going through everything. And now I think I'm at the point where I'm going to rewrite that series. But now I know sort of more of where I want to target it. I feel like, I was trying to write short serialized fiction in a world that doesn't really buy short serialized fiction. Whereas now, like, I've had a bit of time to reflect on it, and I think, like, looking at stuff like web novels and light novels is a much more natural fit for this sort of story. So it's it's interesting to just step back and work out exactly where you should focus your attention.
Yeah, I get that, and it's, given your background, it is a very analytical way of looking at
Yeah.
how to do it. You're finding your audience, and um, that's a lot of what my wife does. Is she's been doing like Twitter since it started as a content creator, etc., for corporations. And that's a bit analytics. Got to find what your audience is, where it is, what it wants, what it likes, and yeah, that's a good way of approaching the process. um, what was the first story that you wrote down on paper? Can you remember?
Ooh. So the first one that I guess that was a complete story that I actually finished was it was a submission for a science fiction and fantasy magazine in the UK called SFX. They were putting together an anthology, and so I put just I told someone at work that I was going to do it, and of course, about a week before the deadline, they're like, "Hey, have you done that story?" And I'm like, "No, right, better do that." So it was good. Just the fact that I told someone was probably the key factor in me finishing it. And it was I guess a bit of a dark, futuristic, post-apocalyptic story where
Did it have anything to do with a virus?
no, there was no virus. The reason for the demise was not revealed, but there was a lot of cloning and sort of very cyclical stories where it was stuff was repeating, and people didn't realize, and yeah, it's one of those that I've got tucked away somewhere that I'd like to develop at a later date to something more interesting than just a short. But
mine, I'm pretty sure mine was a my own piece of Macross inspired space battle
excellent.
type thing.
Yeah.
So we all start somewhere, and I remember being so proud of the 10 pages that I typed
Yes.
out. I might have been in 5th grade when I did that, and that was my printed it on a dot matrix printer too.
Oh yeah, nice.
So let's talk a little bit about the reviews that you do. Now, you said you've been going back and watching some things with a critical eye. What is the thing that you notice most when you're doing a rewatch? What are the kinds of things you really pick up on that you typically wouldn't pick up on the first time?
So foreshadowing is obviously a big one. It helps knowing the end and where everything's going, so you can start to see all the little clues that were there that you probably took in the first time, but not consciously. It's just so it's like I love some really good foreshadowing, and where you're like, one of my favorite things in all stories is a good ending where everything kind of rounds out and fits together, and it's surprising but completely obvious at the same time.
Yes.
Like, well, why didn't I see that until this point? And so going back through them, I can start to look for those clues and really sort of get an idea of just how small and subtle these things are that all slowly build up and through the series until you get to the end, and it's just like,
okay. So
boom.
A lot of shows follow similar patterns. I guess, where are you on the? Some people are like, "Oh, this just has too many tropes." I kind of find that comforting in some ways. It's like I kind of know what to expect in a lot of ways because of tropes. Do you think that you know there needs to be there needs to be more shows or more stories that kind of break out of those molds, or do you think those molds are good for constructing the worlds that we like? Someone was saying that, oh my god, another Aseki. So and I blew their mind by telling them Alice in Wonderland was an Aseki. That the genre has been around for a very long time.
Yeah. Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonder, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and all of his stories about John Carter.
Yeah,
those
sure.
are Aseki. So are you finding that as someone who's consuming a lot of it, are you hoping for? Are you one of those who are like, please give me something that is completely original, completely out there that I've never seen before, or do you take comfort in like that home cooking sense of anime?
Yeah, for sure. There's tropes are tropes for a reason. To the point that people expect them. Like if someone's watching a series about like a futuristic sci-fi, they're going to be pretty upset if there isn't a robot.
Yeah,
like it's it's going to be there, and for the most part, you want like a good grounding of the tropes. You want the stuff that makes everyone feel comfortable and gelled in. I do like when they'll flip for little things. There's like one of the series I'm rewatching at the moment is Harukana Receive.
Okay.
The beach volleyball one. And there's a point in, I want to say episode 3, it might be 2 actually, where Haruka is being told by one of the other volleyball players about Kanada and how she's not like reliable and a little bit flaky. And of course, they're talking about this on the beach, and Kanada's on the promenade, and she can hear everything. And it's, in that normal situation, the trope would be she overhears everything and runs off before Haruka gets a chance to rebuff or agree with it. But before she runs off, Haruka's like, I don't care about any of that. Like, she's my partner and we're gonna play beach volleyball. And so they turned what's normally a sort of dark, soul-destroying moment into this sort of uplifting moment that really bonded the two characters.
Okay.
So I love it when they do things like that, where they just a little tweak to change the tone of it completely. Because obviously you're expecting her to run off screaming or crying.
More shoujo style, like that would definitely happen in a shoujo manga
Yes.
story, where that would be the soul crushing moment. She would never hear the good things said about her, and yeah, that's and since you bring that up, I have to say that that show actually was very, despite everyone referred to it. I heard a lot of people talk about it as an ecchi show, and it really wasn't. Just
No.
because they were in bathing suits, that didn't make it like ecchi at all. I mean, it was really focused on playing volleyball and playing beach volleyball, and I didn't see that that angle from what other people were thinking. That, and it also was one of those moments where I realized I was old because I just thought the mom was hot. So
Yeah, like that show to me, it was just like so wholesome.
Yes.
Like it was like, they focused on the friendships and they were competitive without being
Nasty.
like, yeah. And it had a lot of, very positive moments. I come out of it, feeling like, that was a really fun series. And that's why I'm back reviewing that one.
Yeah. I mean, it showed that you can be competitive and show sportsmanship the entire time, and
Yes.
that is something I think that is lacking as a sports fan to begin with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there's little too much lack of class.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, Hanebado was out.
Oh, which
And
has
that,
some of the best animation.
oh, the matches are stunning. Like I
Yes.
can't get enough of that. But some of the toxicity in the characters, I was just like, oh my.
And hey, and spoiler alert to anybody who's listening who hasn't seen it. Dude, what the only part that drew me down on that program was the ending. I did not want her to have that miraculous change of, oh, working as a team is much better than saying screw you all.
Yeah.
I didn't see the cathartic moment that would have made her lift that baggage off of her shoulders.
Yeah.
So, but that was my only down point in that program. So it's it's one of those things where, because I, like you, I've been watching the stuff for a long time, and I've found that people are the best anime is the anime that what you watched when you were first introduced to anime. Do you find that there are a lot of people who are like, oh, the 90s was like the best, and this new stuff is just tired and old, or it's
I've definitely noticed that a lot, and you see it where everyone's like, oh, anything before 2010 is garbage.
Yeah, like, dude.
Like,
Yeah.
you're discounting a lot of really great shows by taking that sort of stance.
Yeah. Hell, for me, it's always been Toonami was the beginning of anime. Dude, hand me your VHS tape, okay?
Yeah.
That you got from a friend, and then complain and tell me about the beginning.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like for me, it was the early 90s, and one of the local terrestrial television stations started doing a late night Friday anime session,
Cool.
and the first one they started was Akira,
Oh my God.
and I was
That's an
like,
introduction that blows your mind.
absolutely. And I was an early teenager, um, and I'd always had a preference to animated stuff over live action, and like I remember sitting up late at night watching this, and they're swearing and it's violent, and I was just like, this is just the best thing in the world.
Yes. Yeah. For me, that was my Macross experience, where people freaking died. Like half
Yeah,
the planet was killed. One of the main characters gets killed.
yeah,
It's oh my God. I was like, this is amazing. This isn't GI Joe where everyone they shoot all the bullets and no one gets shot.
yeah.
this is
That's it.
this is much cooler to me. And yeah, I mean, uh, Macross, Venus Wars, Akira, which really just was mind warpingly like, oh my God, this is amazing when I first saw it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like I rewatched Akira a couple years ago, and it was as good, if not better, than I remembered. Like there was like watching it as a little bit older, there was layers that I just as a
completely
teenager I was like, yeah, they're all killing everybody and there's bikers, and but watching it older, that it opens with like a 2 minute like opening scene, and you see the fancy tower blocks, and then there's the bikers, there's social unrest. You've got like, it just set everything up so beautifully in that first 2 minutes. I was just like it's there's no way you're not going to watch the rest.
yeah, and it also I think has to do with like the age in which you are when you watch something.
Yeah,
I if you if you are between the ages of like 11 and 15 when you first see Evangelion, you think it is the greatest anime you have ever seen in your entire life because it fits all the mopiness that and teenage angst that you've got. But I really didn't watch Ava until I might have been like 30 when I first saw Ava or something like that. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. I mean, and then the last two episodes, I was like, what the hell is this? But it to me, it wasn't that transcendent experience that I hear from so many students, especially students or kids that run into conventions. They're like, this is, but you don't get all the symbolism and all this. I'm like, dude, maybe because I'm just not an angsty teen that just didn't get to me.
yeah. Well, I remember like Akira was a big buy-in for me, but the moment that I was like fully on board was Project A-ko.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a mashup of like, it makes fun of all the sort of the big movies like Macross
Okay.
and like Dominion Tank Police and all of that, and it has such a, I guess I want to say, a stereotypical Japanese sense of humor. Like it's weird, it's wacky, it's surreal, and I was just like this is where I belong. Like this is my sense of humor,
Yeah.
and I've I've had times where I've not watched as much anime, but I always keep coming back, and now I don't think I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. It's for me. For me, once the world of streaming opened, I was
Oh
just like, this is the greatest thing. This is the freaking golden age for me. This is I can get all the anime I want um, from anywhere, and because I'm grown up and have an income,
yeah.
I can pay for as many streaming services as I want.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, I used to spend, like, I remember the Guyver when it first came out on VHS, and they were £5 a video
That's
for one episode, which
yeah,
is like $10.
$10. Yeah.
And I was like happily handing that over. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's an entire subscription service from
Yes.
from one 30-minute episode.
Yeah. I hear you on that because You know, my biggest grumpy old man moment at a convention is whenever I hear kids complaining about having to pay for streaming services and saying that they think that they should be able to pirate it. I'm like, dudes, no. this is
Yeah, this is
this,
amazing.
this is freaking amazing.
Like, yeah, it's like it's almost impossible to run out of shows to watch now.
Yes. But I still find myself rewatching things again and again and
Oh,
again
yeah,
and again. Yeah. Yeah, especially in the doldrums like we are in right now,
yeah,
where there's not a lot of new stuff. Some of that's COVID related. Some of that's just we're in between seasons. Things have wrapped up and we're waiting for the new stuff to drop. But dude, you know, I just rewatched the beginning, the episode 0 of How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, because that is my all time favorite. I love the writing in it so much. I enjoy it. It's funny. Yeah, I love that it's making fun of the industry at the same time. It's showing a lot of love for the industry. It really is. It's my go-to for anytime I just like, you know what? Let's just go put that on. Click.
yeah, yeah. It's easy, and you know you're gonna have a good time. So it's
Yeah, even if they haven't dubbed it yet, which
yeah.
I'll be interested in seeing one day. The let's see, there was one other really big question. Let's see, do you let's see, what is do you have any big projects on the horizon? Like, are you thinking of releasing anything like with multiple chapters anytime soon, or are you just going to keep that on the back burner and focus on the reviews and the more short form stuff?
No, I've been trying to get a bit of a balance between the reviews and longer stuff. I did NaNoWriMo this past November, and because I'd been in a bit of a writing rut, I decided to try something completely different. Most of my stuff is dark sci-fi, dark fantasy, but recently I found myself really enjoying the sort of more like light and fun shows.
Kind of like slice of life stuff.
Kind of, yeah. Like I'd say the big ones for me the last year were like Beaufry,
Okay.
Princess Connect. Really surprised me.
That, except for the double ears on.
Yeah,
Yeah, that bothers the hell out of me. But other than that, it was great.
yeah. And I like my harem and Ichi stuff.
Yeah.
And so I a few years back while I was on a flight, I was flying to Thunder Bay, Ontario of all places, and I don't know if my mind wanted to be going somewhere else, but I had this sudden idea for a beach resort harem comedy, and I jotted down like a plot on my phone on the way there, and that has sat in my documents for a couple of years, and I was like, I'm gonna try and write that. I think that's going to be the sort of perfect antidote to the weird year we've had so far. It was just, I'm going to write something funny, something light and entertaining, and a little bit of romance, and so I started that for NaNoWriMo. I did the 50,000 words in November, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through the story.
Okay.
So I've got a bit more to do that I'm going to pick up again in January, and once I've got that finished off, I'm hoping to start releasing it early next year. So I'll do the whole web novel.
Are you going to use your site, or you think you'll use something, one of the other ones?
I'm probably going to branch out and use a few.
Okay. Well, hey, nothing wrong with that. And even though I often say disclaimer, I am an editor for Honey's Anime. We also operate Honeyfeed, which is our web novel site. So it gets a good amount of views. So I'd keep Honeyfeed in mind, because
yeah, it's definitely on my short list.
Yeah. Well, stay on the line. I'm going to tag us out and I'll chat with you about a couple things. But I want to thank you for joining me today. And I know that you're in the same attitude as me after this conversation. Right now, we are in an amazing age where we can publish from our living rooms and everyone can get their stories out there. And that, I never think that the world is short of, is going to be overpopulated with stories. I want as many of them out there as possible. So if you like this conversation and some of our conversations we've had in the past, please make sure you click the subscribe button. And until next time, keep reading.
This has been a WLNM podcast.